thanks to Glenn and Dave for the extra half a mile, if not more, that they put into this campaign to have such a successful meeting. It's fantastic that the one thing for sure is trades councils are back on the march. And when I just heard that fantastic song by Sister there, and I look around and see the banners from Unite, the banners from Exeter District Council that we're doing a meeting on Tuesday night, Unison, Somerset Community Defence Campaign, an old NUR banner. People should see the back of it, where you see a ball and chain with capitalism on the worker's foot and the ballot box. And you see Bristol Trades Council, Somerset Trades Council, retired members of RMT, PCS, Fire Brigades Workers Union. All of those issues that you see on there, workers of the world unite, unity, the past we inherit, the struggles, the future we own, is not just rhetoric like a song, like the singer just said, about winning the 8-hour day and getting things and people taking them off us. They're things that the trade union movement and the socialist movement has learned for over 100 years. That's what's on those banners. Nothing to do with just standing phrasemongering from a corner of the street. And I think this meeting and this week, it brings out the very best and worst about what's taking place in society. See, this week, for example, we see the Royal Mail being privatised, people running around the place, highlights on the news. I noticed that in the ILO magazine, International Labour Organisation magazine last week, that a third of the world went to bed hungry last week, and the world produces enough food to feed the world over twice every night. That 50% of the world earn $2 a day, and 10% of the world earn $1 a day. And all the scramble on the TV this week was, how much is the share price going to be on Royal Mail? And every time that share price goes up from £3.50 to £4 and to £5, that's all the money they're going to extract if they get away with smashing the post office workers' pension scheme, taking all their conditions off them, and making services worse for the consumer. They're not bothered about someone sending a letter from Cornwall to Glasgow. They're bothered about how much they can make out the profitable parts of that network, get rid of it, and shut the rest of the service down. That's what privatisation is all about. And then, I see on the front page of the Sun this week, organising unofficial action. Turn off the electricity, they're saying, because the prices are too dear. The same paper that supported the privatisation of the utilities. So that's what you've got with utilities. What you're seeing taking place now is that under capital, there's certain rules that are laid down. You see, under capital, when these prices of gas go up on November the 23rd by 10%, all of the employers, whether they be in Bridgwater or anywhere in the UK or anywhere in the world, will pay 10%. When raw materials go up by 15%, the employers will pay 15%. You ask for a 10% pay rise and see what the answer is going to be from the employer. Because the reason why, the employers have an ideological hatred against working people. They don't want you to have nothing. They don't mind giving money from one boss to another boss, but the one thing's for sure, they don't want you to have nothing. And where was we 100 years ago? This very place, which has always had a history of resistance, where was we 100 years ago? Battling away to do away with zero-hour contracts, to ask for annual leave, to ask for sick pay, to ask for a national health service, to ask for comprehensive education, and ask for a world that lived in peace. So where we are 100 years later, is pretty simple, is we've now got what's called globalisation. If you remember when they said they was going to pull the walls down of the Soviet Union, then we're all going to be free. Whatever the faults were of the Soviet Union, and there was many faults in the Soviet Union, the one thing the Western world and the bosses had to do was give concessions to working men and working women. They recognised the fact that unless they give concessions, people might start asking for a different society in the countries they had. Just to give you an example, in 1947 when the railways were nationalised, workers on the railway got 2 holidays, bank holidays, Good Friday and Christmas Day. They got 2 weeks leave. 1 week they got paid for, 1 week they never. There was no sick pay and no pension scheme until 1967. When I started in 1977 in the railway network, I had 5 weeks annual leave, 26 weeks full sick pay, free travel, a pension, Everything that I just naturally thought that every worker always had. I didn't realise that workers had to fight to get all those things. And when I look back, what happened is pretty simple. Not just in the railway industry. In the mining industry, they won things. And workers in the engineering sector said, we want it. And workers in the engineering sector won things. And workers in the railway said, we want it. And workers abroad won shorter working weeks. And we won pensions. And internationally, Europeally, we all started learning about what took place. Now the issue is, all those gains are now going to be taken all away from us unless we resist them like the resistance took place in this town over 100 years ago. Because you see, when people say that this austerity is not working, it's not working for us, but it's working for the elite. The elite have got richer, and the rich have got richer, and workers have got poorer. You can't condense into a pint jar, a pint and a half, without it overflowing. You can't say to workers from year in, year out, there's no pay rise, that gas prices are going to go up by 10%, that food prices are going to go up, that house prices are going to go up, and simply say what Cameron said, if you're cold, wear an extra jumper. That's the reality that's taking place. Now we have to recognise the facts about what took place. You see, when banners were made and those slogans were put on, we have to recognise the fact what really took place 100 years ago. And what really took place 100 years ago was there a war, a world war. And that world war was completely different to the Second World War. It was a war between basically three countries carving the spoils up of the world that could make profit for those individual elite in those particular countries. And when workers, your great-grandfathers, great-grandmothers, fathers who come back from that war effort from 14 to 18, come back, they was duped. They come back to society, still full of poverty, still full of unemployment, still full of no decent housing, no decent education, no job security, and casual labour. And then we moved into mass unemployment, moved into the 30s, and we go to war, a different kind of war, a war against fascism. That war against fascism at a time where there was mass unemployment in this country. There was workers in this country, I can tell you, one of them, my father, who didn't want to go to war. He said to my granddad, what have I got to go to war for? I'm a casual docker, I've got no work, I've got no house. As far as I'm concerned, Hitler might be better for me if he does come over. My old granddad forced him into the war. He come back after 7 years after being in the 8th Army, to a different situation. Because those same people who had come back with confidence, which was meant earlier on and said earlier on by Nigel. They come back with confidence because those same bullying managers that were in place before the war, when there was mass unemployment, one of those bullying managers was still in the same workplace that my old man attended when he went back in 1946. That same bullying manager said to my old man, Crow do this, Crow do that, with unsafety practices. The difference was in 46, he had just had an education in the army, and he said to the manager, I'm very sorry, you don't frighten me anymore, Gov. Me and my mates just beat Hitler last week, so you're least of my race. And within 5 years, 2 million social houses being built, a national health service built on the basis that whether you're a pauper or a prince, when you go through the doors of an hospital, you get the same treatment, and you get hospital care not by the size of your wallet, but by need when you decide to have it. Never been free, the national health service. You pay for it when you work, and you get it free when you're ill. Just like this education system. This education system now, one absolute joke to tell these youngsters, that you want a youngster to be a scientist, or you want a youngster to be a chief engineer, or you want a youngster to be all the things that we want youngsters to do and have their skills to be taught in universities. But you put a 50,000 debt round their neck to get it. You don't do that to youngsters. You get youngsters into those universities and you don't charge them a fee, but when they come out with their skills, they will be paid higher. You up the tax on them to put the money back into society where they work. You've got 50,000 of debt round your neck, you now got to go and get a house. Where are you going to go and get an house? It's all nonsense at the moment. Going to build 12 houses here, and 15 houses here, and 16 social houses there. What we want is new towns. Totally new towns being built of social housing. The money at the moment it's going straight to the private landlords. That's what it's going to. Some people think that housing benefit are people who don't work. Yes, housing benefit do go to some people who don't work. They all go to people as well that do work on low wages, and the money is going to the private landlords. Why don't the council and the government understand the fact? All they need to do is build houses, put the million builders that are on the dole back to work, and once they've built the houses, put the owners back into the houses and get rid of those private landlords that are milking those people to try and get somehow to live. It's an absolute joke. You know, one of my friends had a bad rugby injury, and he was told by his employer, he was pretty reasonable actually, the employer, he said if you're off for more than 18 months with it, spinal fusion you had to have, then we've got to finish you off. He's 27 years of age, this lad. And this lad went to see the consultant. The consultant said, with an operation, I'm 90% sure you'll be okay. He said, the problem is there's a waiting list for 3 years for you to have the operation. However, if you go private, I can get you in next week. What's the story, said Bob? I said, well, you have to do it, simple as that. The fact is, you can't be out of job, and you need the operation. Put his credit card on the desk, 5,000 quid the operation was, and he was in 6 days later. I went to see him at the Bupa Road in Hospital, which is only about 2 miles from where I live. Went into the hospital, got to say, fantastic ward, 5-star treatment, even got a menu for what he wanted. Friends could have something to eat there, you could even get a drink there as well. That's the way it used to be, by the way, to get a Guinness. Remember my mum having a milk stand? Remember my mum having a milk stand in hospital? Remember my father having her milk stand? And you know what? Surprise, surprise. When the consultant come in, it was the same consultant that was in the NHS hospital. He said, I'm operating, but I only operate for National Health Service Monday to Thursday, and I operate for private on Friday and Saturday. Obviously, he's a church-going lad, he obviously goes to church on a Sunday. And the only difference was that your money makes you leapfrog. Now, some people could turn around and say, well, that's right, if you've got money, you should be able to do your own things with it. Yes, I accept a holiday, a car, something you want to buy, clothes, I accept that's luxury, but not National Health Service. And the way round it is pretty simple. It's the National Health Service that keep these privateers in place, because they're creating the hospital queues for the privateers to pick up the excess. If I had my way, I'd close down every single private hospital there is in this country and give it back to the National Health Service. There's no money. Where's the money coming from? Well, there's plenty of money out there. I mean, look, this carry on in America last week, where they was going to run out of money. Only 6 weeks ago, whatever the rights and wrongs was, they was going to send cruise weapons straight into Damascus. So where did the money come from that? 1.75 billion for cruise missile. Where did the money come from? You know, all of a sudden they run out of money. But if the Syria crisis was happening 2 days after the crisis, there was no money, they would find the money. The old comedian years ago, remember him, Tommy Cooper, used to say, just like that. That's how they found the money. Just like that. So if you can find all this money to destroy society, why can't you use it to construct society? But the reason why they don't want to build houses is because you ain't got to be a genius to work out. If the local shopkeeper has got 1 bag of sugar left, there's 100 people outside wants that 1 bag of sugar, he sells it for the highest price. But if there's an abundance of sugar and no one wants it, the price of the sugar comes down. And the fact is, if they built social housing, unfortunately for a lot of people, the price of their housing will go down. But yes, it may go down, but more importantly, your kids and your grandchildren will all have somewhere to live. Because you see, in 1979, when Thatcher got elected, 57% of the adult population was in a trade union. But more importantly, 88% of people were covered by a collective agreement. We're down now to around 30% of the trade union movement, but less than 25% of people are covered by a collective agreement. So in the 70s, even though 57% were in a trade union, 9 people out of 10 were covered by a collective agreement, where now only 3 people out of 10 are covered by a collective agreement. And people better recognise what they mean about this European Union when people say, well, there's some benefits out of it. Well, the benefits out of it, a bit like a cyanide pill with a sugar coating. The sugar coating tastes nice, paternity leave, but once you take the layer off, inside it is not a sweet soft centre, it's cyanide that kills you. Because what it says is there should be no restriction for the movement of capital. And there should be no restriction on the movement of labour. The difference between the movement of labour and capital is pretty simple. Some boss in Bucharest who sends over a cheque to London, there's not a lot of heartache into that. He makes a decision, he wants to move his money into an investment. But a worker in Bucharest coming over to Britain, he's got to up stock, come over here, give all his family up to come over here for work. And what's going to take place, it's pretty simple, about immigration, is if there's mass unemployment, those people that have been building that nuclear power station, who are not British, they will be scapegoats by saying they're taking away the people's jobs from here. We've got to say it's not the immigrants' problem. I've got no problem with an immigrant. The problem I've got is with the immigrant's boss, who don't pay the same pay and conditions as their brothers and sisters by the side of them. That's what the real problem is. We've got to hold our hands up to the immigrants, but we've all got to say it's a system that's wrong, that two workers that will compete against each other to do the same job. Don't forget the railways were built with immigrant labour. The Irish come over to here and built the railways. Now, what have I got more in common with? One of those stockbrokers, or one of Osborne's people, or a labourer from China. I've got more in common with a Chinese labourer than I have with a stockbroker, because that's what globalisation is all about. Globalisation could be a fantastic thing. The highest wages in the world are from Norway, so why can't we have Norwegian wages? Why can't we have the best social conditions of social security, which is in Denmark, that the trade unions pay the money out to their members? Why can't we have that? Why can't we have the French pension? Why can't we have the German shorter working week? The reason why we can't have it is two reasons. Number one, the Chinese person that's making a suit for a bowl of rice a day is in competition with the tailor in Savile Row in London making a suit. There's two options. Either you pay the Chinaman or the Chinese woman the same rate of pay as what a tailor gets in Savile Row, or you reduce the pay of the Savile Row tailor to that of a Chinaman a bowl of rice. So they decided, the bosses, that it's going to be reducing down to the bottom, not up to the top, because they pick the profits up. When they reduce these prices or bring workers in on cheaper rates of pay, they don't turn around and say they're going to reduce your cost that they're giving to you. They just want to make bigger profit for themselves, because that's their God. That's the only thing they live for. And hence the reason why we've got to turn around and say we hold our hands out to the trade union movement, not just in this country, not just in Europe, but throughout the world. And our job at the end of the day is to support all workers throughout the world. Real solidarity is not about just joining the European Union, because you may get a few maternity benefits paid to you. Real solidarity is that when the Liverpool Dockers take strike action, then French workers in Calais and Boulogne don't accept their culture. It's the trade union that comes first. And I would point out as well, where's Labour been this week on these prices? Where's Labour been this week on this Royal Mail? Because the reality is they sat down and allowed for these private companies to continue to rip off people. We should just ask for one energy industry. Why do we want gas, electricity to be competing against each other, against solar, against wind, against wave, against hot rock, where there should be just one energy policy, delivering the policies and energy for working people of this country? And therefore they need to make it clear where Labour stands. Where do they stand on the anti-trade union laws? It's quite clear what Thatcher understood. To smash the trade union movement, she had to take on the strongest group, the mine workers. She had to bring in anti-trade union laws to emasculate working people and to create mass unemployment, coupled with smashing municipal authorities. That's what Thatcher understood, and she's done a bloody good job about it. And Blair, when I hear him say that after 12, 13 years, that was the small little bits that he'd done on recognition, and the small little bit that he'd been sacked after 2 years rather than 1 year, that he would still have the most restricted rights of any worker in the Western world, he should hang himself in shame as a Labour leader to allow that to happen. Therefore, brothers and sisters, just like the old slogan, which side are you on? Can't be on the fence. Are you on the side of the Royal Mail workers going to be on strike on November 4th or not? Are you on the strike side of the Fire Brigade workers? Yes or no? Are you on the side of the PCS workers? Yes or no? And any other group of workers out there, whether it be the bedroom tax, where they're forcing people out of their homes, where they're going around now in South London on Friday and put 5,900 people through court and said to them that you now failed to pay your rent and failed to pay your council tax, and we're now looking to move you compulsively out of London to another part of Britain. Where are they going to move them to? Where there's work? Of course they're not. They're going to move them where there's mass unemployment. That's where they're going to move them to. They're going to try and create ghettos if they could. And we should all understand what some of the other people said years ago. Like the unemployed leader, Walt Harrington. Spitting on your own just like the ant and the bear. You can't do nothing, but if you all spit together, you can drown them. That's what they understood about the power of unity. So therefore, brothers and sisters, I salute Bridgwater TUC. I salute the workers in this region that are fighting, and I salute those people that give their time up freely and voluntary to try and make life better for working men and working women. Meetings like this give us the authority to reaffirm our belief and our hope. Give hope to those kids out there that there's more there and they can't do nothing about it. There's nothing we can do. Of course there's something we can always do. Let's get off your knees and fight like we've always done. And these meetings are about, in my view, bringing back the trade union movement where it should be, at the grassroots, where there have been leaders that are prepared to fight, not just in the trade union movement, but people in the municipality and people in Parliament that are prepared to roll their sleeves up